Today, this is our topic, grammar translation method. From the previous class, now we can easily identify the differences between and differences among methods, approach, and technique. Now, I will be going through this method and you will find the features of those approach methods and technique in this particular lesson. And I believe lots of queries were there in the previous class, so those will be solved in today's class. And I would like to tell you that today's lesson mostly based on Richards and Rogers and different sources. I should also acknowledge Larson Freeman, from where I took some references. Okay, this is Mohammad Nasim Firdaus, and we are starting today's lesson. Richards and Sheet. This is the definition they developed. A method of foreign or second language teaching which makes use of translation and grammar study as the main teaching and learning activities. So according to them, main teaching and learning activities are the translation. Translation means from one language to another language, especially from target language to the native language, and the grammar study, that means the rules and structures of grammar. So this is the study which is looked under grammar translation method. And if I talk about how this grammar translation method has generated from where, so mainly this is 19th and 20th century, where it was originally used to teach Latin and Greek languages. So primarily it was developed to teach Latin and Greek languages, and that's why it was known as classical method. Earlier in 20th century, this method was used for the purpose of helping students read and appreciate foreign language literature. So major purpose is reading and understanding the literature of foreign language. For example, we are here in Bangladesh, and English is a foreign language like Japanese, Chinese, Hindi, and others. So in order to have the literature, to understand the literature, we are going to learn that particular language, and that's why this particular method was implemented. So what are the features? Definitely these features are available in your textbook. The page numbers and the chapters and the book is already given there, so you can definitely find it. But these are the basic features and characteristics of grammar translation method, in short form GTM. First one is that the goal of foreign language study. What is the goal of that foreign language study? Why you want to learn a foreign language? According to grammar translation method, to learn a language in order to read its literature. Because I want to read, I want to understand the literature, that's why I want to learn a language. That's the feature of GTM. And under GTM, vocabulary and grammar are emphasized rather than other skills. There are many language skills, and from them, only vocabulary and grammar are emphasized. And how will you learn those vocabulary? You will learn those vocabulary by reading text and identifying bilingual word list, dictionary study, and memorization. In order to understand and the word and its meaning, you will find the word list, bilingual word list, that means the same word in Bangla and English. If you are trying to learn English, then the meaning in Bengali meaning, and you will compare the list, and then you will understand. You will go to the dictionaries and you will understand, and of course you will memorize the Bengali meaning of English word. That's how you will remember and select vocabulary. And then the sentence is the basic unit of teaching and language practice. As grammar translation method is mostly structure based, it will follow the structure of a sentence, and it is the basic unit of teaching and language practice. Whenever you will practice the language, you will follow the sentence pattern, the structure. And of course, during teaching, if you want to teach your students, and then you will follow the basic unit, and that is sentence. And here accuracy is emphasized. Accuracy means grammatical rules or structures, as these are emphasized under grammar translation method. That's why grammar is taught deductively. Deductively means openly. You will explicitly tell about the structures, the rules, the definitions of different grammatical items like tense, like parts of speech, like preposition, and that's how you will teach grammar. And there's last one is the last but not the least one, because it is very important, because the medium of instruction, how the teacher will instruct, and that is in his or her, that means the teachers or the students language, and that is the native language. For example, if I give you some instruction what to do and how to do, then I will use the native language to teach you English or any other language. Okay, so theory of language, we talked about that, the theory of language, theory of learning, and theory of language learning, and theory of language teaching as well. So first one is theory of language. So how this particular method looks onto the language, how it what is the perspective of language from this particular method. It understands that language is for understanding the literature. The base purpose for a language is to understand the literature. That's what this particular method thinks all about. Literary or written language is considered superior to spoken language. So spoken language comes later. Written language or literary text, that means reading and writing comes first. Then spoken or listening skill. So that's why it believes that the learners should have gone through the literature or the written language. Spoken language will come later. And this particular method thinks that culture is viewed as consisting of literature and the fine arts. So in order to learn a language, as it already says that the base thing is literature, so there is a connection. It creates a connection between culture and literature. So how the learners will learn this language or the target language. So the theory of language learning. So first one is translation is the way to learn the language. Translation from target language to the native language is the base form of learning. A learner can learn a language from by translating from target language to the mother language. Students also learn the structure of their own native language. Yes, by learning the structure. For example, in English, we know the basic structure of a sentence is subject plus verb plus object. But in Bangla, the structure is subject plus object plus verb. So by understanding, by identifying and learning through grammar translation method, students will have the idea of the structure of their native language as well. So that's how they will be able to compare and learn. The learners who study a foreign language become more cultured and intellectual. So as the learner will read the foreign language literature, he or she will learn through culture. So he or she will become more cultured and intellectual of that target language. And of course, the memorization is the prime aspect in this particular grammar translation method. Memorizing native language equivalents for target language vocabulary words. So same meaning. For example, word, the particular meaning of word in both Bangla and English, the learner needs to memorize in order to identify and understand and apply the language in the target language. So what are the teacher's role here? How will a teacher react in this particular session or in this particular method? So as we know that it will be applied through delivering the structure. So teacher here is the authority, in the classroom. So that's why it is a teacher-centered classroom. It is not student-centered classroom. It is a teacher-centered classroom. So what will the teacher do? The teacher will start the activities and directs the learners. He will identify and instruct the learners what to do, and he will start the activity. He will tell the students, tell the learners what to do. He or she will direct that. And what will be learner's role in here? The students do as the teacher says in order to learn what he or she knows. So the message, the information will be transferred from the teacher to the learner. So that students will follow what the teacher says or instructs. And by doing so, the learners will have the knowledge of the teacher. And learners will learn it as a passive receiver. He or she will learning through passive way. New information will be learned in a passive way. They will not browse for learning. Rather than they will have information from the teachers. Learners follow the activities and directions referred by the teacher. As the teacher the teacher will start the activity and direct the students what to do. So that's why learner will follow those activities started by the teacher and follow the directions directed by the teacher. And as we already know that memorizing is a very important section in grammar translation method. That's why learners are supposed to memorize the rules of different grammatical items, and they will learn the vocabulary of the target language. Of course, with the meanings, they will learn the meanings of the vocabulary. Meanings means they will understand and or identify for example, if you are learning English, then you have to identify what that particular word means in Bangla. So that's how you will learn the language. So what will be the design of the syllabus? So how will it be designed? Mostly it is structural syllabus. The teacher will follow structural syllabus. That means list of structures to be taught during the course. That means the teacher will follow different grammatical items, and he will identify and describe and explore the structures, and by delivering those structures, student will learn and during developing the course. And the order of structure starts from the easiest. Yes. For example, if you say the passive speech are the easiest one, so the teacher will start from the passive speech, then he or she will move from the other difficult structures like maybe narration, maybe tense, maybe voice or other structures. So what will be the materials the teacher will follow? In grammar translation method, teacher generally use the text of the target language. So for example, I can take if I want to teach English language, so I can easily tell my students to follow William Shakespeare or the text which is written in the target language. That means in English language, the literature from English language, I can recommend the text which is from English literature if I want my students to teach English language. And the teacher may either write the text or use an authentic literary text. So of course, the teacher can write a text, make a story of his or her, and he can find these things up. That's how he can do this thing. So what are the goals and objectives of grammar translation method? The primary goal and objective of the grammar translation method are here, the list in here. To teach translation, yes, translation from target language to the native language. To read and understand literary text in the target language, yes. I will try to learn English language in order to learn or understand English literature. So that could be the one. And to make students aware of their native language structure and vocabulary. Of course, by identifying those structures, the students will also aware about the structure of their native language. For example, by learning the structure of English language, as my students will learn the structure of Bangla language and the vocabulary as well. and to improve students' mental capacities with grammar exercises. So that means they will, as they are dealing with the grammar and grammatical structure, so definitely they will improve their grammatical knowledge, as they will be able to create more structures and structure based issues. So how will the teacher correct in case the learners fail to understand or produce wrong structures or wrong sentences? How will they do that? So in this particular method, the teacher corrects the error strictly. Yes, if a learner try or make any mistake, the teacher will be very strict to identify that, and he or she will deductively, explicitly will tell the learner that you are wrong and that correct thing is that. Errors will not be tolerated in grammar translation method. I am repeating this word, errors will not be tolerated. And of course, accuracy is emphasized. Accuracy will be emphasized strictly, and by referring accuracy, we are referring grammatical correctness. The sentences, the structure should be grammatically correct, and that is the base thing of accuracy. And the learners must have they have to accurate in producing grammatical sentences. So what are the techniques they will use as the teacher? What will the teacher do? So I would like you to go through these particular sections, because these are the techniques. There were lots of questions in the previous class about techniques, what is technique and other issues. That means I say the techniques will be the procedure, how the teacher will process or carry on his or her class. So this is how a teacher can carry on his or her class. These are the options in there. So definitely the teacher can add all of them, or he or she can reduce some of it. So it's up to the teacher, but these are the techniques generally are followed in grammar translation method. Number one is translating of a literary passage. That means it is very common for most of the learners, especially in Bangladesh, that the student will read a literary text, and he or she will translate. That means the teacher will translate the text from English to Bangla, and that's how a technique can carry on. Reading comprehension questions. That means there will be a passage, there will be reading text, and based on the reading text, how the learners have understood will be testified through questions based on that particular reading text. So this is the way the teacher can carry on his or her class. And of course, the antonyms and synonyms, the vocabularies he or she needs to find, and he will do that by identifying these. So if there is a particular one word, one vocabulary in there, and then he or she can make the antonym, make the synonym, and that's how he or she can learn the vocabulary as well. And cognates. Cognates means the similar words. For example, if I learn an English word, if there is any similarities with Bangla word, I will try to identify, or maybe I try to find the base form of that particular word. Then I will try to understand what that particular word means. And then deductive application of rules. Yes, deductive means you will learn a grammatical rule, and you will place it in a structure, and you will produce more text in there, and that's how you will learn the rules and apply it in different structures, or make different sentences in there. Fill in the blanks exercise. This is also a common scenario, common technique followed in grammar translation method, and most of you are familiar with this, because there will be some series of sentences, and particular one word or some phrases will be blanked there, and the learners need to fill those blanks in order to learn the sentences or understand what is there. And of course, the memorization, that means he or she has to memorize the structures, memorize the vocabulary, and so there might be some activities, there might be some task in there to memorizing those words. Maybe they will read, maybe they will write something down to identify this one, and that's how they will they will learn this one. Use words in sentences. Most of us have found this section in our evaluation, maybe in test, in different tests in our earlier classes, maybe class 2, 3, or 4, or 5. We have been given a particular word and we have to make a sentence from that particular word. So this is like that kind of structure in there. And then composition, definitely the composition refers maybe as based on that particular text. He or she has to write an essay following the same pattern, or maybe the teacher can instruct his or her learners about writing the summary of that one. So these are the ways, these are the techniques can be followed in grammar translation method. So what are the advantages of grammar translation method? So here is the list. These are the prime list. Of course, you will find more from your text, from the book, which is suggested in this particular lesson. And the first one is easiest for teachers to use. As a teacher, it will be very easy for the teacher to follow this one, because the teacher does not require to speak good English or make good lesson preparation. So the teacher may be an average one, maybe he or she has some basic knowledge of that particular lesson, maybe some grammatical rules, and he or she can easily carry on that. Use of textbook is enough in most of the times. Yes, he or she might not take other issues. Maybe he is not needed. He or she is not doesn't need to take a newspaper or other text. Textbook is more than enough for him or her to conduct the classes. Least stressful. We are saying least stressful for students, because as the teaching happens in first language, in the native language of the learner. So as it is in the native language, so there is less difficult to understand those issues. So that's why it is less stressful for the learners. And of course, students learn the new language without contact with native speakers. So they don't have to have contact with the native speakers. So they can learn from others, and that's why it will be very easy for them. So there will be less difficulties for communicating with the native speakers. Yes, of course, there are some disadvantages. Disadvantages number 1, students lack comprehension. Lack comprehension in response as they are translating word for word. So they know the word meaning, but whenever it comes to identifying or connecting through the sentences, through passages, then that's the time the students lack comprehension. And students are not allowed to create meaning in English, as they are mainly focusing on the structures. So they skip the meaning to create a new meaning in there. Students do not learn to read, as they are mainly focused on translating from Turkish language to their native language. So they don't have the focus or exposure to read. And then extensive memorization. So it can be difficult for many of the learners to memorize something. So if the learners, they do not comfortable with memorizing, they will find difficulties in the particular method, grammar translation method. And of course, very little student-teacher or student-student interaction. So as the particular method believes on the interaction between it doesn't believe in the interaction. It believes in structure. So that's why very little student-teacher or student-student interaction happens in there. So now the big question is there is, does it exist in Bangladesh, grammar translation method? And yes or no, that could be your answer. But is it necessary? Is it necessary that grammar translation method? Is it necessary to teach or learn a language? And the last one is, do you prefer grammar translation method? Will you follow grammar translation method for teaching new students in Bangladesh, if you have become a teacher, if you want to teach your learners English language, will you follow grammar translation method? So these all answers will lead to a particular a section, and that is the decline of grammar translation method. So I would love to have these answers in the forum. So definitely please join in the forum in the discussion about the presence or existence of grammar translation method in Bangladesh. And these are the resources I use, especially this book. This book is also attached in here. Definitely you will find it. So please do this and you will find experience. So please download this and read that text. I expect that you should have questions, and if you have questions, please do ask in forum. Yes, forum. And thank you very much for being with me, for being with for all the time, and for joining here. Thank you very much.